football playoff has fan bases throughout the country going off the rails. I'm going to bring in my guy, Cody Stovall from Locked On Oklahoma State, to talk about all the controversy and get ready for championship weekend right now on Rise and Shine College Football. Good morning, and welcome back to Rise and Shine College Football. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and if you love college football, you know you're in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment of Hall of Fame college football. Brandon Snake, what up, my guy, True Okie, KJ Golded, Logan Litkey, Jonathan Fazekas, Sooners for life. Good morning, good Friday to everybody. Welcome to championship weekend, folks. It is, man, the college football season is starting to wind down. We're getting into the final week of the regular season for college football. Championship weekend, conference championships. You got the SEC championship going on tomorrow at 4 Eastern time in Atlanta between the Georgia Bulldogs and Alabama Crimson Tide. But there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. You've got everybody up in arms over what's about to happen in the college football world. I mean, there's a lot of meltdowns going on in places like Provo, Miami, South Bend, stuff like that. There's a lot of controversy going on. So, is what it Hood Dispatcher, the D Tulsa. What up? What up? Good to see you guys. I'm struggling here with this damn thing. Alrighty. All right. But yeah, so the sport's basically gone off the rails. Playoff committee hiding in a bunker somewhere. National analysts inventing new ways to try to screw over Oklahoma. Joel Klatt woke up, sometime early this week, determined to convince America that a 10-2 SEC team with the nastiest defense in the country doesn't belong in the playoff. And okay, Joel. Okay, buddy. Meanwhile, the Sooners just survived the most brutal 4-game stretch that one could even possibly imagine. But hey, never mind. It is what it is. We will talk a little bit about that and what you're going to see from championship weekend and the aftermath on Sunday. Welcome to the show, Neilio David Whitehead. Good to see you, man. True Okie. I'm going to bring in our special guest, B9 from Locked On Oklahoma State. Oh boy, Okie like Cody.
Hey,
what up,
buddy?
What are you doing?
We have arrived. College football regular season is over. We get to look forward to the playoffs, and you guys are in it. And the future North Texas Mean Green Cowboys might also be in it as well. So color me excited, buddy.
Hey, yeah, listen. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Mean Green, yeah, that could happen. Those could be some future pokes on that roster there between the North Texas Tulane game that's going on obviously tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, hold on. Watch it there, Crucifix Autumn. I don't rock with him. Watch it. Yeah, man, that'd be a good one. I think that's going to be a really good game. I lost a lot of respect for Joel Klatt. Trash, as Brandon Snake says. Listen, Klatt's on his little, I don't know if you've seen all his little bullshit that he's been going on about Oklahoma doesn't belong in the playoff. Alabama beat him, this team beat him, that team beat him. Well, we beat Alabama in Alabama. What the hell are you talking about? The
Well, yeah,
toughest.
that and I've heard people kind of talk about John Mateer not being, ready for the playoffs and things of that nature, but it's completely different whenever you have like an injury to a quarterback. If you go back to the Jordan Travis situation, I
Right.
can completely understand that. But as you and I even discussed last night, if John Mateer does get rocking and rolling, he does have the ability to put up 35, 45 points. Now, I know over the last 6, 7 weeks, it's been a big if, but
Right.
it, I think that, if you give him a little bit more time, mechanically speaking, I think that thumb injury has played a massive problem in his, ascension the rest of the season. But he does have the ability to get hot and get rolling, and that alone leads me to believe that OU could be a problem in the playoff.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a defense that's this good, it's like nothing. We kind of talked about this on the phone last night, and there's no situation that you can put this Oklahoma defense in that bothers them. It seems like, he turns over Mateer turns over the ball on the first series, almost gives up a pick six, makes the tackle, and on the very next play, Peyton Bowen, rises up like Michael Jordan and snatches the ball out of the air for an interception of his own. And I mean, it was it was a struggle on the offensive side of the LSU game last week, but constantly they continued to make play after play after play on that side of the ball. They've done that throughout the second half. This is a team that rallied after the Ole Miss game, a loss that they probably shouldn't have. A turnover killed them. They had just taken the lead in the game. They have a costly turnover. They end up losing it, but they rallied together, had a big conversation the week after that. Brent Venables talks about it quite a bit, saying that he's not one to put the cart before the horse, but they threw up there a graphic that had come from ESPN that if they were to win out their last 4 games, most people would have. I think heading into the season, everybody kept talking about the brutal stretch of coming down for Oklahoma in this SEC.
Yeah.
The last 7, you're able to go out there and you win 5 of your last 7 games, 4 in a row, 2 on the road at 2 of the toughest venues in the country, at Knoxville and then at Alabama the 2 weeks later. Then are able to hold on at home against a tough Missouri team and, a wounded but still dangerous LSU to get in. I mean, I don't know how you could even argue it at this point when it comes to it.
As much as I would love to talk crap on OU, I don't think that there's any conversation that equals them being out of the playoffs in any circumstance. They basically won the games they were supposed to, and they won the games down the stretch. And you are right. Nationally, people were saying, well, they got to play Bama and Mizzou and LSU, and there's no way
Yeah.
that they're going to end the back half of the season in a position to be in the playoff. They're 100% there. Now, if you want to have a conversation about Texas may not deserve to be in, Notre Dame may not deserve to be in, Miami may not deserve to be in, you can have those conversations. But to me, OU doesn't fit in that category. And yeah, your defense is 1 in a million, right? I equated this to the 2011 Oklahoma State defense. They
Yeah,
would
you
tell the offense, all we need is 10 points, fellas. Go get us 10 points. We're the number 2 defense in the country. If you give us 10 points, we're probably going to get a victory. And they wore it as a badge of pride. So they didn't give 13 craps if we had 15 3 and outs. They genuinely did not care because in their eyes, they deserved to be the squad that was going to win the ball game. They deserved to be the unit that was out there when the game was on the line.
leading the way for them. Yeah.
And that's precisely where OU's at. And if you're going to give credit to anybody, it's got to be Brent Venables. Not only moving to that GM role so he could focus on the football side of things, but also being the play caller. You've got to give that an extra degree of consideration, in my opinion.
Listen, and the way I look at it is, and Daughters Jean says in here, this defense allowed the second fewest points in SEC history already. That's significant when you start thinking about all the Alabama teams that Nick Saban put out there. Not to mention Kirby Smart with and Georgia just over the last decade. Even you think about some of those defenses that they've put out there, and that's significant in and of itself. Never mind the entire history of the conference. But that being said, I think you're right. I mean, look, you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. You can't come in here and say at the start of the season, yeah, well, I like Oklahoma, but they're not to me, I don't think there's any way I see 8-4, 7-5, blah 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 blah, because of that back half of the schedule.
Yeah.
And they go out there and they finish 10-2, and are able to go on the road and snap the longest current winning streak at home in Alabama, getting a pick six, quieting the crowd there. I was in the stadium, man. What an amazing atmosphere, but it got awfully quiet there in Tuscaloosa that day. And I mean, to be able to do those things and do what nobody expected you to do, and why everybody was picking you to go 7-5, 8-4, maybe 6-6 even. I don't know how you can continue to. Then you can go back and say, well, because their offense isn't very good, why did anybody want to see them in the playoff? Well, I know we've seen a lot of really offensively led teams go into the playoff. They don't have a defense at all. In fact, Oklahoma has been in the playoff before without having a defense at all and being all offense. So,
well, I was about to say same thing. How many times have you guys been to the top of the heap and offensively you were able to put up 45 points, but defense was always the limiting factor for OU whenever you guys were representing the Big 12 and all of these BCS playoff style marches. And now you have exactly that. And what does everybody always say? What wins championships? Defense. So who gives 13 flying flips if the offense isn't quote unquote humming? You have to win the games you're supposed to. It doesn't matter what side of the ball equals the wins, in my personal opinion. And secondarily, right, we talk about how the committee takes injuries into consideration. John Mateer should have never played in that Red River game, right? And just because he did play, perhaps that's why there's a little bit of an asterisk there. And you even mentioned it last night. It probably would have been better for Oklahoma to have Hawkins play that game, give Mateer a little bit more time to get healthy, instead of going for the fun Red River story about John Mateer making his return, when it is very visible on film. The first few games, he could throw from 3 different arm slots. Since he's had his thumb injury, it seems as though he's only really throwing from 2 arm slots, 3/4 sidearm. He doesn't seem to go over the top anymore, which is why I think some of his reads have been a little bit off, and it affects his confidence. They're going into the playoff. That's a completely different level of confidence that you have to have, and that's why I think John Mateer is going to be fine. I think Arbuckle is very well aware of the limitations surrounding OU as it pertains to the committee. And I think he's going to have a game plan to showcase John Mateer and the OU offense.
Yeah, and Dr. Gene, people must forgot how we won our last title, 13-2 over Florida State in 2000. Yeah, a totally defensively led championship game against the Heisman Trophy winner and Chris Weinke in Florida State that day. Again, obviously college football has changed quite a bit since then, but even Coach Carl saying, and shout out to Coach Carl in here, defense wins championships. Every single person has ever followed college football says that. As Brandon Snake says, defense wins championships. When OU has it, we aren't good enough. 100%.
Oh, and just for curiosity purposes, when's the last game that you had all 3 running backs available?
Yeah, it's been a while, man. It's been a while. I think that they're going to be healthier for sure. You get 3 weeks essentially. Look, Klatt can bitch and complain. You've got multiple talking heads on the national stage that are out there doing their, and I think when it comes to Klatt, you got to look at it as he's doing this on the Big Ten side of things, and probably pushing a Notre Dame over them. You've had Miami folks doing the same thing, but it's the national level. But in the end, it doesn't. Everything that we've seen from the committee says they're in. It's over with. They're not. I mean, the worst that could happen is you might not get the home playoff game, but you're more or less in the playoff, almost guaranteed. Even all the chaos that we'll get into here in just a few minutes that's likely to come starting tomorrow, I don't think anything is going to really derail Oklahoma, aside from possibly you don't get the home playoff game, depending on how everything shakes out. That being said, that's another thing. As you said, BV, they've talked. This has been a rallying cry. They're hard to kill. That's been what they've talked about. Hard to kill. They love it that they've had their backs against the wall, and since that loss, they've been a different football team, and they're embracing the role of kind of being underdogs and gritty, grimy getting it done however you can get it done. And these are the kind of things that turn into kind of special seasons. I don't want to predict a national championship or any crazy thing like that, but these, to me, I've been one of the people saying we're going to have some more offense in order to go to that level. That being said, I think that if you have a couple of things go right and you do get even just, remotely better on the offensive side of the ball, put up 24 points. Put up 24 points a week. This defense will lock it up.
I mean, if we talked about you winning the games down the stretch that you're supposed to. There's a team in the SEC that was like the fancy team all year that did not do that in Texas A&M. I think A&M kind of got exposed. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not an SEC expert when it comes to scheduling, but I'm pretty sure it was at A&M or Texas only have like 2 top 25 wins.
Well, no, Texas actually ended up with, and they're now obviously they lost the third one and they're bitching about the Ohio State game. But I
don't think that should be counted against them, because I do agree that if you do hold that against Texas, it does affect future scheduling and it's going to cause people nationally.
You don't have to hold that against Texas. What you want to hold against Texas is the fact that their third loss was that loss to a 4-8 Florida team.
Well, and you said it right there. Right? If you go look at the top 25, there's not any other 3-loss teams that are really in serious consideration except for Texas.
And that's what it really is. That's what it really. They're theoretically still, they could get in. I don't really know how it would work out that they would, but they're the Vanderbilt has basically been deemed out of it, and they're at 10-2. Of course,
right.
Texas beat them, right?
Yes. But I think Vandy would deserve to be in over Texas.
Is not going to make it. It's the 3 losses, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, and they can say what they want about Ohio State. I get it. Win the game. Win the game.
And the problem,
and on top of that, don't go on the road and get beat down by Florida that went 4-8, and then 2 weeks in a row you try to lose games to Kentucky and Mississippi State, and it takes overtime to get through it. And then maybe people will listen. The campaigning on their side of it, and meanwhile, BV hasn't said a word. All this stuff that's being said by everybody else about OU, Venables hasn't said a thing. He hasn't campaigned not one little bit. It's not really in his nature to do such things. I find that kind of refreshing, honestly, that he can sit there and he believes in what he's got. We'll kind of wait and see how it goes.
It would be nice for people like you and I out here in the sports media sphere. It would be nice for BV to say something at least somewhat controversial so we could have some fun with it. But you're right. There's not a need for him to say anything, because I think he even realizes OU is in a very, very good position. They're in a much better position, in my opinion, again, compared to a BYU or a Notre Dame or a Miami or a Texas. And again, I would love to be here bashing OU and talking a bunch of crap, but I can't stand the fact that we talk about how the schedule matters, the games matter. You have to win the ones that are important at the end of the season, right? You can lose in September. That's okay, because you have a lot of time to make up for it, right? Notre Dame can lose to Northern Illinois and still go play for a national title because they lost so early.
Right.
There has to be penalization for teams that lose at the end of November. There just has to be. If not, what the flip are we doing?
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And, in the end, it's gonna play out the way it plays out. I think that if you're somebody that has a gripe, I think a genuine gripe, there's some teams that definitely do. I think that BYU, if they're not able to beat Texas Tech, tomorrow, they went into this championship game at 11-1.
Yeah.
And to not be able to get in, whether it was either one. Now I think Tech gets in because they're already in the top 4. They're not going to drop them enough for that to not happen. But I think that right now BYU isn't in. And even at 11-1, which it's a little wild.
I agree. It's a travesty. I'm sure you can pull up a graphic, but there's been a lot of graphics comparing Miami and Texas and Notre Dame. But if you've noticed, a lot of these are leaving BYU off of the graphic board because when you put BYU up there, graphically speaking, they murder all of those teams. So I do find it very, very funny that nationally there's clearly a purpose for not including BYU up in all of these graphics because they have a higher strength of schedule, they have a higher RPI, they have more wins against top 25 teams. They've only lost one flipping game, and it was to the number 4 team in the country on the road in Lubbock. Like, I don't understand how there's any metric. There's not a metric alive that indicates BYU should not get in. And the common consensus always was, right? No, BYU is never going to get in because they're not in the conference. They get in the conference, and now you're going to penalize them for going 11 and flipping 1 and losing to the number 4 team in the country. Meanwhile, Notre Dame doesn't have to play a conference title game. Notre Dame's strength of schedule is absolutely horrendous. It's
Well,
a
it's
tragedy,
actually they're
right?
right there together. What I found out last night, I actually was on with Bomber before I talked to you, but
Oh, nice.
it's Notre Dame's strength of schedule is like 36th. BYU's is 35th, but it doesn't seem like any of this is getting out there for everybody to look at. But that strength of schedule, BYU actually has one spot better. And I mean them in Miami. And
Where'd you see that? Because I saw a strength of
that's
schedule that had BYU at like 6th.
no, that's what he was. I didn't see it. He was talking about it. Let me get it.
Or maybe it was strength of record that was 6th. But yes, one of them was
now,
BYU.
the strength of record. That's the one thing that not everybody. You can't even. Nobody even knows what that is.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, right? They give us this runaround and how they pay attention to the metrics and the statistics and who's healthy and when you win, when you lost. They're not doing that with BYU. Like, you can't tell me that there doesn't seem to be a very purposeful agenda nationally to keep BYU out. And I have to wonder if there's a religious component there. I know you're probably not supposed to talk about that kind of thing, and it's a conspiracy theory. But again, statistically speaking, whenever you line BYU's schedule up, their strength of schedule, strength of record, the margin of victory in their wins, when you factor all of that in, it's not even close. And again, I think it's very purposeful why they're not putting up the graphics when they're comparing these teams, because BYU does put themselves in a position where they have a better, record versus the top 25, better strength of schedule, better strength of record than a Notre Dame and Miami. And again, Notre Dame, if their schedule is not going to improve, it should almost be mandatory that they have to go 11-1. Their schedule used to be great, right? When USC was at top and Stanford was really, really good, their scheduling, and they would play Michigan every year.
Not as bad as you think it is. I'll say this: I don't know that they deserve to be in necessarily over BYU. I'm not going to sit here and say that. Now, do I think that they're better than BYU? I do, but that's neither here nor there. If the strength of schedule says that BYU is better than Notre Dame, or has a tougher strength of schedule than Notre Dame, they have an 11-1 record. They should already be in front of them. That's a problem with what I think is going on. It's not necessarily. I mean, we know what it is. We know that it's a Notre Dame. They want Notre Dame in the playoff.
Yep.
Because the other part. I mean, if the other people that are really screaming about Notre Dame right now would be Miami. Miami beat Notre Dame by a field goal in the first game of the season, right?
Yep.
If we're not going to go by the head-to-head stuff, what are we going to go by now? I think it's really easy to say that, and look, I understand that other people would be like, well, yeah, but Miami hasn't been good since then. There's been they've lost to worse teams. If you look at what Notre Dame, they lost to Texas A&M, who is still in the top 10 in the country, and they lost to Miami, who's still in contention for the playoff. Miami's losses were to Louisville and SMU, who, while I think they're good teams, they're not as good a teams as what the ones that Notre Dame lost to. Now, the argument for Notre Dame, if you're a Notre Dame apologist, is look, they've been unbelievable pretty much ever since then. They're doing what they should do against some of these other teams, blowing them out.
Yeah.
USC, they've been better. I mean, they were better this year. They finished at 9-3. They blew their asses out. Going on the road to Pitt last week or a few weeks ago, blew their asses out.
That was convincing. I will. Yeah, that was convincing.
So at least they've played better. But again, if you're gonna go with, I think that the one metric that you really you don't really. It's such. I think I heard Jay Crane talking about this. This should be the easy one for the committee that they can punt it and be like, look, if we're talking about them on the same in the same place here, all we have to do is go to head. They lost, so you go to Miami, right?
Yeah, I think Miami deserves to be in over Notre Dame. I don't think either of them deserve to be in over BYU. But if you're having a comparison between Notre Dame and Miami and who's more deserving, I mean, I probably lean towards Miami. But Notre Dame does have a top-notch defense. They do have probably the best running back in college football. They do have the gold helmet.
They absolutely do.
The gold helmet travels anywhere, everywhere, no matter what happens. And
it's the golden goose, Cody. It's the golden goose. I mean, the golden dome is the golden goose for college football. And I'll tell you what. Here, I kind of said this last night, but it's something I actually saw this, and it makes 100% sense. I wish I remember who said this because I'd give them credit for it, but I'll just take credit. The most densely populated area of the country is in the Northeast. The Northeast is a pro sports area of the country. They don't really care anything about college football.
Yeah.
What they do care about is, especially like New York, is Notre Dame football. They have a Notre Dame station there, television station there. They've got multiple radio stations, athletic clubs that are for Notre Dame. I mean, if they're going to watch the college football playoff, they're going to watch it because Notre Dame's in it. And that's the most densely populated area of the country, which is exactly why ESPN, Fox, they may not have them in one of their conferences, but they love to put them on television. And it's the reason the NBC ponies up $65 million a year to have them on their television stations as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
No matter how you slice it, they definitely get different treatment. Now, you can feel any kind of way you want to feel about that.
Yeah.
I'm giving you reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I am seeing, though, is, to me, if BYU wins, I think that they're definitely, I don't know. I think that it's setting up to where Notre Dame could get left out. Because,
I mean, dude, they told us 3 years ago that conference championship games are going to be weighed more heavily than all of the rest. I don't necessarily think that you should, like, penalization may not be the right word, but you're going to put teams in a position where they're not going to want to play in their conference title game. You know what I mean? Like, if you play in your conference title game and you get punished for it by losing, and then a team that's sitting at home with the same record or more losses gets in because you just lost the conference flipping title game, then I think this whole thing is proving itself to be a farce. Like, you could even go back to the
Coach Carl's asking, can BYU really compete with the best teams in the country? Coach Carl, their strength of schedule is right up there with the best teams in the country, and they're 11-1. I don't know if they can or not, but neither do you, and neither does anybody.
I would say that it's somewhat comparable to OU. BYU has a very, very solid defense. They returned like 85% of their defense from this previous season that also, won 10 games as well. Offensively, LJ Martin's already rushed for almost 1,300 yards, one of the top running backs in the country. The biggest question mark surrounding BYU is the same as OU's. Is John Mateer's thumb going to put him in a position to launch the ball down the field enough to get a dub? It's the same thing with Bear Bachmeier. He's more of an athlete. He's more of a runner. He's a true freshman. He is the only true freshman to start for BYU in its entire history, right? And you're talking Ty Dittmer, Steve Young. You know some of the legendary dudes that have walked through those hallowed halls. None of them started as a true freshman. So you got to give Bear Bachmeier credit, even if he's not the best passer of the football. And it's just like,
I'm a believer in Kalani Sitake, man.
Yeah, dude. We're every school's having all these issues in the portal. Guess who's not? BYU. They might have 6, 7 guys leave a year. That's it. BYU never has 15, 25, 30 guys leaving. Never, ever, ever, ever. And it's because of Kalani Sitake and the faith that they have in the system. And I do think that BYU, if you get the right matchup, would cause people some problems. Now, if they were to draw Georgia, probably would be a difficult proposition. But Ole Miss is in a little bit of a precarious situation. I know most of their roster is sticking tough. I know their defense is sticking tough, but you can't tell me that the offensive innovation that Lane Kiffin brought to the fold isn't going to be factored in. And that's going to be another thing that we could talk about. Having some of these teams that maybe deserve to be in at the tail end, if you're going to punish Florida State for not having Jordan Travis available, it feels like you have to punish Ole Miss at least a little for Lane Kiffin not being there. I'm not saying that they should be bounced out of the playoff, but if they're a 7 seed now, maybe they should be a 10 seed.
I don't know that they shouldn't, though. I mean, you're going to tell me that your play caller, head coach, the architect of your offense isn't going to be a big problem not having him around there? And look, I know that Charlie Weiss Jr. is going to go back and call plays. He hasn't called plays before. This is a different football team. It
is, but from a committee's perspective, I can understand that, yes, they deserve to be demoted, but not out of the top 25 because their entire roster is still playing the game. And there is going to be some continuity on the defensive side of the ball. With Weiss coming over, I do feel like that's kind of a deal sealer that they should be in. And here's the deal. I think Ole Miss should be in.
I mean, they would have a complaint if they weren't. I'm saying if we're going to argue these little things like that, and if you can leave out Florida State for a quarterback, you should definitely be able to leave out a team for not having any of their offensive staff aside from one guy.
Yeah.
And a guy that didn't call the plays, and he's going to call plays, right? I struggle with that one. But and I'm not saying that I don't think that Ole Miss is good enough to be in the playoff. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Right.
I think we're going to see a lot of this football team at LSU next year. That being said, in my eyes, if we're going to start having these, here's where I would really kind of push the conversation to, though. There's some scenarios that, and I think that BYU and Tech is one of them, but also you got to look to the SEC game as well. Looking at the SEC game as well, Alabama and Georgia. Now they've had this argument about you can't punish. I mean, and this is what's funny about the whole thing is they don't want to punish, like, say, Alabama if they get a third loss in the conference championship game because they've already, if they weren't in the conference championship game, they'd be in.
Right? Exactly. Yes.
Already be in.
Yeah.
They're the number one in the SEC. They're not the highest ranked team in the SEC, but they are the number one seed.
I'm glad you said that. If you're going to have 3 losses, that third loss absolutely has to be in the conference title game, or this shouldn't even be a conversation.
Right. But there are some people that are saying, no, Alabama should be taken out. And do I believe that they'll do it? No, I don't. But when you go to then you go over to the Big 12 championship and you've got 2 11-1 teams. One of them is not going to be taken out if they lose, Texas Tech.
Yeah.
But if BYU loses, it looks the way that the committee has been ranking them so far says that if BYU loses, they're not going to be in the playoff.
Well, and I think they were strategically positioned for that, by the way. I don't think that it's a coincidence that they're 11th in the last 2 polls. I think that's strategic. It's so they can say, well, hey, if BYU would have beat Tech, obviously we had a position to be in, but they didn't, so therefore they got to go. I think it was strategic. I think it was purposeful. But, there's conversations that Baron Morton and David Bailey may not be 100%. That could be something that BYU takes to their advantage. And here's another thing that if you didn't watch the original Texas Tech versus BYU game, the reason that game got out of control is simply because of turnovers. Like BYU was having some success. BYU was driving the ball a few times. They just turned the ball over at very inopportune times. And it doesn't help when Texas Tech's able to take the turnovers 77 yards, 61 yards. So
sure.
I don't think the score of the Tech BYU game is indicative of what kind of team BYU is. I just saw a comment from Coach about watching BYU and doesn't think that they're ready. I don't understand that, again, because you're talking about some of the teams like Texas A&M, that most of their wins in the SEC were against the teams in the SEC that are 3-9, 4-8, 5-7.
No, well,
so,
yeah,
like,
Texas A&M had 4 wins over teams that were playing interim, that had interim head coaches.
And this is obviously going to be an unpopular opinion, but I'm saying that BYU's schedule was significantly more difficult at the end of the day. When you look at it at the end of the season, it was far more difficult than a team like even Texas A&M. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure A&M only has like 2 top 25 dubs. Like that's just it. I don't understand the justification. And Texas is kind of in the same boat. If the committee is going to talk about putting things in consideration, once we mentioned earlier, John Mateer probably didn't do himself any services or owe you any services by playing in that ball game. But
Right.
because now the committee cannot take that in consideration, they should, right? They should be able to look at it and say, yeah, but that was like a 70% John Mateer. Maybe we should weigh that a little bit differently. It ain't going to happen. And here's why. It's because you and I both know 60% of that committee does not watch a whole lot of college football. Are they watching Red River? Probably. Are they watching the Iron Bowl? Probably. But are they watching Iowa State versus BYU? No, they're not. They're not watching it. Are they watching Clemson versus Duke? No, they're probably not.
No. And a lot of them won't watch it. I mean, and that's what, who was it that was just saying this? Yeah, Gil Cruz is saying, I'm from Brooklyn, and you know that, and I don't watch college football because of Notre Dame. I watch because of Alabama. But you are correct. A lot of people up here watch because of Notre Dame. Well, and when you look at Alabama, there's a blue blood that a lot of people pay attention to because it's one the other. I would tell you that. I mean, we've said this a lot. To me, Notre Dame's the biggest, probably the biggest brand in college football. Period. Right after that is going to be like Alabama, right there with them, right?
Yeah, and unfortunately, like I said, Notre Dame is up there. They carry that level of cachet to some degree. So does Miami. Obviously, Texas does. Obviously, Bama does, and they should. But yeah, man, I think it's a massive black eye on the committee.
Not everybody. I'm not saying the entirety of the Northeast doesn't watch college football. I'm just saying if they are, I mean, by and large, the grand majority of them, they're either Notre Dame fans or somebody like that. But they're not. It's more of a they like pro sports up in that part of the world, is what I'm saying. It's more of a pro sports central.
Yeah, it's definitely predominantly Major League Baseball, NHL, NFL country.
Yeah. A&M beat Notre Dame on the road. That's their best chance. No, listen, I think A&M's not out. They're not. Let's just make it real. We were just talking. If we wanted to start comparing this and comparing that, we can do all that kind of stuff. You're going to find something to bitch about with every team in here, including Alabama.
Yeah.
You could say that. Listen, I know everybody, because they're both undefeated, nobody's really talking about Ohio State and Indiana. I tell you, I don't know what their undefeated means because neither one of them played a really good schedule.
I'm glad you mentioned that. When, if ever, is the national punditry going to start acknowledging the fact that the back half of the Big Ten is awful? The back half of the Big Ten would not be very competitive in the ACC, but it never gets talked about. It never gets talked about. Like, at least in the SEC, you guys have so much size up front, right? You guys get all of the big body beast on D tackle and offensive linemen. So even the lower tier teams like your Mississippi States of the world, they have athletically more pieces to give you a decent run for your money. That's not happening in the Big Ten. But because Ohio State is so good, Michigan is so good, Indiana is so good, more often than not, it gets completely left out of the conversation that the Big Ten year by year, it's not getting better, in my opinion. It's consistently getting worse, to where all you have to do in the Big Ten is you circle about 3 important games. If you win those 3 games, you're going to be in the playoff no matter what happens. You could roll out your backup quarterback for 8 games and still probably get yourself to 10, 11 wins. And I don't understand why it doesn't get talked about so much. I understand Ohio State probably is the best team in the country right now, athletically speaking. But the fact that they get built-in dubs and it never gets mentioned, it's a disaster. Matter of fact, if I'm Notre Dame, I'm joining the Big Ten because it's the same thing. You got to go against 3 really hard teams a year. Other than that, you're basically playing the same schedule that you're playing right now. And I don't think I'm knocking Notre Dame here. I think I'm simply stating that Notre Dame, one of the things that always made them so popular and worth watching every weekend was because of the schedule. Right? They were always playing the ranked Michigans, the top-notch USCs of the world, and it's not even probably their fault, but their schedule is not the same as it used to be. The Stanfords of the world are not participating to the level that they used to. So I think if Notre Dame would be willing to shift its schedule a little bit, right, to kind of get it more competitive, this isn't even a conversation. But if they were to join the Big Ten, I think Notre Dame would be in that conference title game every year, every other year.
Right. And Coach Carl,
you don't have to have this.
What I'm saying is we don't know, and that's the point. And that's what Cody's saying too. We don't know because they murdered Oregon. Who gives a shit? What has Oregon done? Who have they played? Their next best win is over, or their best win, I guess, would be maybe Penn State or USC, same as Notre Dame. You know, if we want to sit here and talk about the wins and this and that and this and that, the truth is the Big Ten protects its big brands from each other. So we don't know how good they are. They don't. I mean, Indiana didn't play them during the regular season. They did last year and got rolled. They played Notre Dame last year, got rolled. You know what I mean? And so when they played a good team, they got their asses handed to them. Well, I don't know what that means to this season. I think that they look better, but they look better against a bad Big Ten. Let's just be real.
Yeah. I mean, whenever the Big Ten announced that they were moving to 9 conference games.
Yeah, the whole thing with the 9 conference games. Yeah, fuck.
Originally, I was like, good on you. I thought it was a good move. I think that everybody should be doing that. But then the more you realize it, it's like, well, hold on. No shit, they said yes to an extra conference game because who doesn't want to play another game against Rutgers? Like, yeah, of course they said yes.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole deal. That's the whole deal is that they do that. But aside from I would say that, at least Ohio State did play Texas and Michigan did last year. Michigan played Oklahoma this year on the road.
Yeah.
So not every one of them.
No.
For by and large, the league itself does a good job of trying to keep their teams protected. The SEC doesn't do that. You can't do that in the SEC. And now I say that, but if you look at what A&M's schedule looks like, it's not as good as they didn't have to play Bama. They didn't play Georgia. They played Texas. They didn't play Oklahoma. They didn't play Tennessee. They didn't have to play any of the best teams. They didn't play Ole Miss. Their best opponent aside from Texas had to have been Mizzou, right? Meanwhile,
Notre Dame,
LSU, they did play LSU.
Yeah, but LSU's a shell of themselves,
right? Again, all I'm saying is I don't know what, and it's like people saying how dominant the Ohio State defense is. I think they look great. I know they're not as deep as Oklahoma's defense at all.
I agree.
I don't know that they're as dominant as, what I guess we should find out because the Indiana offense is supposed to be so amazing. So I'm interested in this game, and I'm not saying that they're not good, but we don't really know that they're that dominant and that they should be 1-2 no matter what the fuck happens in this game, right? I just think this is where you start getting into sometimes wins and losses. They don't all equal. They're not all equal. Not all losses are equal. Not all wins are equal. Let's stop acting like they are. Again, I don't think that you have to get into who should be in, who should be out. And I think we can sit here and argue about that any day anyway. And we can argue against team A versus team B. I think that what everybody's really pissed about is that the committee is one day they say this, one day they say this. It's like you don't really know. I think they're talking out of both sides of their mouth a lot. I heard Coach Kulick say they ask you something simple and they give you some data driven or like a number answer instead of saying, no, we're talking about this, 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 and this because I see this, he sees that. Quit bullshitting us. And quit, if it matters one time, it should matter the next. And from week to week, like the argument between Miami and Notre Dame, I don't care what side of the road you fall on. I don't care. I don't care what side of the road the committee falls on. But don't tell us you're not putting them together to talk about them together when we know you are, because they're not ranked. You haven't ranked them similarly yet, so you're not comparing them yet. Bullshit. You're not comparing them yet. So don't say that to me. Tell me, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Miami beat them at the early part of the year, but we believe, or at least a number of us believe, that Notre Dame's a better team than they were at that time of this year, at that time of the year, and they're not. You say that, you may not agree with it, but at least it's not bullshit coming out of their mouth. Shout out to Cole Kublik for saying that. He was talking about, and I agree. I don't really care where you come down, but don't bullshit us and expect us to be okay with it. You know?
Yeah. And I feel like, there should be an IQ requirement for a driver's license. I feel like the committee should have to have some understanding of football, right? Like, you can't tell me that Condoleezza Rice understands the difference between an RPO and a read option. She has no clue, right? And remember last year they panned to that room of all of the committee sitting there drinking their wine, watching the game. You could tell it was the most forced thing in the world, because as they're panning across the room, there's genuinely only like two people that you can tell are visibly paying attention to the game. Everybody else is like kind of peeking at the camera and drinking their wine. It's a joke, man. At this point in time, I think you need to insert the BCS component once again. I'm okay with the playoff committee, but there needs to be some like AI statistical metrics used. And I think if the BCS component were involved right now, I think BYU's in whether they win or lose to Texas Tech. But because
if you're using computers, they're gonna go. It's gonna go by data only and whatever parameters you put in it.
Yeah.
So you've got an algorithm. It's gonna spit out the teams that it's not. There's no biases involved.
I think somebody put this up last night
if they want, right? Huh?
Somebody put up a graphic last night. I meant to take a screenshot of it, but it was basically, if you go off just statistical data, in the BCS formula, BYU would be like a 7 or 8 seed right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you take out the computer component, but again, if the BCS formula says BYU is good for 7th and the human component says they're good for 10th, I'm okay with that. But right now, we're just basically getting the human component, and they're changing their justifications, right? 1 year it's because they don't have a quarterback ready. 1 year it's because they didn't play in a conference title game. 1 year it's because they lost a conference title game. They don't have a set parameter for what they're actually looking at. So every year we have this level of confusion. So every year we have this debate between the last 4 teams that should or should not get in. And I think that you have to install like a computer metric back into this equation.
Right. Yeah. And it's the whole yeah. And to me, it's the way they're grading the teams is what Andrew says. 2 teams have to be within a block of 3 from one another for a head-to-head to come into play. Why? And exactly, I don't believe that for a second, Andrew. That's what I was just saying. I don't believe for 1 second that you're not looking at 2. They're both 10-2. They and Miami's strength of schedule, according to what Bomber was saying last night, I still haven't found what he was talking about. I'm struggling to find that. He's saying Miami was, or BYU's 35th. It's 36th for Notre Dame, and then Miami's at like 42nd.
So I got it right here. The strength of schedule for Notre Dame is 42nd in the country. BYU is 35th. Strength of record, BYU is 6th. Notre Dame is 13th. And then FPI, BYU is 15th. Notre Dame is 3rd. So FPI is the only statistical category that Notre Dame edges out BYU. BYU obviously has more wins, less losses, better strength of record, better strength of schedule, and more wins against top 25 teams. So there's literally only one metric, and that is FPI, that would give Notre Dame the nod. Again, that's why I think the computer component needs to be installed back into this equation.
You can do that, but and coach is saying we had a computer metric. Everybody bitched about that. Now we want to go back to it.
That's
I'm
what.
not
Hold
saying
on.
wanna go back to it.
I just said I don't think we should go just purely off computers or just purely off people. It needs to be a combined effort.
I think the eye test at some point matters, and if
Yeah,
you're really
yeah.
watching college football, the eye test definitely matters, right?
Correct.
But coach, I've told you this already before. Head to head matters to me. I think it makes it easy. That's the part that makes it easy. They played Notre Dame, and Notre Dame played Miami. Notre Dame lost. If it's between those two for a spot, I don't see how you could do it other than I'm not telling you it's not going to happen because to me, I think it probably will. If what we're seeing from the committee says they would rather see Notre Dame in the Miami. I think that's what they're saying, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Look, I don't have a problem with that. All I'm saying is quit bullshitting us. And if they are using whatever metrics and stuff, be a little more transparent and people won't bitch as much about it. There's always going to be bitching and you don't need to go to 16 or 24 or that.
Yep.
None of that has anything to do with it. If anything, I'm more along the lines that I'd rather stay at 12 or even go back to like 8. I don't give a fuck about how many teams.
I'm with you.
There's not I think there's more teams that could win than ever before, but I've already told you before too. I don't believe in G5 teams being in this damn tournament. I don't think they have a snowball's chance in hell of winning a single game in 10 years in the playoff. I don't. Maybe one. I'd be surprised at that. But having and now the possibility now we got to talk ACC here. You've got a 7-5 Duke team playing for the conference championship. If they win it, that means you're going to have a second group of 5 teams in the fucking playoff field.
Yeah. Well, and you know, Miami, they're not playing in the ACC title game. No. I think they should be penalized for that. Maybe not a lot, but again,
but here's the ACC is screwing that up though, is what I'm getting. I think the ACC is screwing that up something fierce because if you look at that, how is it that they have a bunch of conference teams playing against each other, but it's not a conference game and a bunch of weird shit like that. They only have 2 common opponents between them. I get it that they have these large conferences, and we were talking about that with the Big Ten just now. But bro, fix your damn. If you've got it should be an automatic. If you've got over 3 losses, you cannot play in this game. End of story. Do something because now Pate called it the doomsday scenario for the CFP. It was never built to have 2 G5 programs in it. Nope. It's built to have the power conferences in it.
Yeah, and
any you put in, whatever, it was never built for this. And this is what I'm saying. There's 2 things that can happen this weekend. You get 2 G5s in, they're going to change the fucking the format. End of story. Also, if you kick out Alabama, say they were to have the balls to kick Alabama out for losing a 3rd game in the conference title game. Now, first of all, I got to say, until Georgia beats Alabama, he's 1-7 against them. I'm not buying them, right? Yeah. But that being said, I think that Georgia's playing better right now. But I would tell you that I got to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That being said, unless they're willing to kick them out, and I don't think they're going to be, but I'll tell you this, if they were to boot Alabama out of it, if they were to lose, next year, there's no longer a conference championship game in the SEC.
Well, I was about to say, before I say what I'm going to say, I do think Bama deserves to be in. I think they're good enough to be in. They're clearly one of the top 12 best teams in the country. But at the same point in time, I am curious. I'm trying to think of the right verbiage. I don't know, man. The conference title game thing. I don't think
they wouldn't have another one. There will not be another one if they were to do that. And I think that's coming, whether it's this year or next year or somewhere. That shit is coming, and I think it should. To be honest with you, I'd rather you. They're going to want to protect them. I think that the second that one does it, the rest do. I'd love to. I thought I said this to Barmer last night. the Big 12 fucked up. Right? I know that you may not agree with this. I think that they should have went with the 4-4-2-2 model and agreed to that moving forward, starting next year or whatever. Because doing that, you don't have to worry. Your conference, your top two teams in like the SEC and Big Ten, they don't have to play. You could have a play-in tournament, which is more football. Everybody loves it. And the same thing is, you can have, if you know you're going to have two spots in the Big 12, you can have 1 to 4 play it off.
I mean, I like Brett Yormark's vision here, and I appreciate
your conference champions in, and then I don't know.
I appreciate what he's going for. He wants to earn 2 spots, but I do think that it was a little bit of a nearsighted decision for Brett Yormark.
It was stupid. And where the hell has he been lately on the argument for BYU and Tech and all that shit anyway?
Well, because I don't think
ball on that.
I don't think Brett Yormark even took into consideration how slanted the view was going to still be for the Big 12. I think Brett Yormark figured that if this situation happened, if they had 2 11-1 teams, he assumed that both would get in. So that way we didn't need the 4-2-2-2 model. But as we're about to find out, it doesn't look like they want 2 Big 12 teams in the daggone thing. And
no, I agree.
Unfortunately, I don't see that changing.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. You can say that you shouldn't get punished for being in your conference championship game, right?
Well, and that's hold on. I do remember what I was going to say.
You punished the Big 12 team. You didn't do it to the ACC last year, but you did it to the Big 12 2 years in a row. And now, and I know Coach thinks, I've heard you, Coach. I know what you think about the Big 12. I'm telling you that if it either is real or it isn't real, and that's where I've been at on it. And it will change if one of the major conferences loses a spot based on being in the conference championship. Because again, Alabama's in. If they don't play in the conference championship this weekend, they're in, no matter what. Now BYU can't say that because they're not voted in yet. They haven't been given ranked that high yet.
Now, I love Coach more than 13 chunky kids having relations on a cupcake, but he cannot look at that Notre Dame schedule and say anything negative about a Big 12 school, right? Calm down now, Coach. Oh, but I remember what I was going to say about the Bama thing.
We don't
penalize them for losing their conference title game. You can't do that. And secondarily, you can't leave Bama out because Sankey and the SEC still hold a lot of the keys to the kingdom for almost everybody. And if they remove Alabama, Greg Sankey and the SEC is going to throw such a massive BITCH fit that it could affect the playoffs in the future. I do think that Greg Sankey is that spiteful, that he would do that he would say, okay, if you're going to leave Bama out, we're just not going to participate in your little college football playoff thing, and we're going to kick our ball.
As far as like just going with the Big Ten and maybe Notre Dame and splitting off, they could.
And that's what I'm saying. If the CFP leaves out Bama, and the political aspect of it maybe shouldn't be here, but it is, I think that if you do leave out Bama, you give Greg Sankey the ammunition he needs to say, we don't need you mother truckers anymore. We're going to have our own playoff next year. You guys have fun with this crap. So I almost feel like,
hey, make no mistake, they definitely did that. And Coach, you're right about that. They were moved up last weekend to protect them from dropping out of the playoff. I think you're right.
At a bag.
Now, I think that if they were to get beaten badly by Georgia, there's the possibility that they could change their mind. I don't believe that they will. I don't think they can. I don't think they can afford it, because if you're the CFP, again, maybe it's not fair that politics enters the equation, but I mean, I'm sorry, if the SEC removes themselves from the CFP conversation, the CFP is going to tank financially. So I don't think the CFP can afford to leave Alabama out, no matter unless Georgia beats them like 42-3. I mean, that's about the only. You're getting upset about this, but I'm not arguing one way. I'm telling you facts. I'm not putting my opinion into this. As far as whether I think Notre Dame belongs or not. It's not about. I'm not saying whether in Alabama. I said you're right about that. They did do that.
Well, politically speaking, Notre Dame's not in the SEC
playoff. ESPN owns the playoff, and they're definitely going to take care of their baby, the SEC. No doubt about it.
Right. And if Notre Dame was in the SEC, they would be in no matter what, and they'd be a top 4 seed right now. Yeah, 100%.
You say that about the politics, but yet you talk out of the other side of your mouth and say Notre Dame should be in because of the politics. Which one is it? I didn't say that they should be or shouldn't be. I'm telling you, Norm, I believe that they probably still are in. I think that if BYU wins, you're not. I think if BYU wins, you're not in.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna have to. They've already voted Tech as a top 4 team. They're not going to drop them out, and now they're going to have 2 teams in there. I think that you still get in as long as because they're going to kick BYU out.
Yeah, if BYU loses, Notre Dame's in. Done.
I think Notre Dame's in.
Yeah.
Or unless that ACC scenario happens. I mean, theoretically, all the bullshit they were talking about, they weren't in the same area for us to like compare them yet. Well, now they will be. They'll be right next to each other in the rankings, and so you'll have to compare them. And so, does head-to-head matter or does it not matter? Again, I'm not telling you that I think that Miami's better. I'm telling you Miami beat you head-to-head. If it's me on that committee, I'm going by the head-to-head. But that doesn't mean that's what they're doing. And in fact, I don't think that they will. I think that they want to put Notre Dame in over Miami, and I think they will. But if BYU gets in, I don't think if BYU wins the conference championship against Tech, I think that's the only way that Notre Dame gets out.
I think it's pretty evident
Not about my opinion anyway.
In a perfect world, the CFP committee, they don't want BYU and Miami in this conversation. They would prefer BYU and Miami not to be part of this equation whatsoever.
Sure.
So again, I do think that they're clearly trying to give every amount of ammo available for Notre Dame to get in. But if some chaos happens and you're stacking up the statistics, Notre Dame has to be out. Miami would have to be out. Texas would have to be out. And again, it's just, what is the CF
getting all butthurt at me? I don't give a fuck if you think I should be on the committee or not. I'm telling you what I think about head-to-head, and you've always said head-to-head matters aside from right now whenever you lost the fucking head-to-head meeting. You're acting like everybody but you is like
Bro,
you're not
why don't you
send from a bias angle, Coach? The fuck out of here with that shit.
Why don't you send Coach a link?
He can come in anytime he fucking wants to.
He has more to say than we do.
He already knows. He can come in anytime he wants to, but he wants to bitch and complain about anything that's remotely said against Notre Dame. And I'm not even going against Notre Dame. I'm saying I feel like they will get in no matter what, as long as BYU doesn't win.
I agree.
I'm not telling you that. And shit, I've been pro Notre Dame this whole time. I do think that they're one of the better teams in the country. I think that they're Miami, but they lost to Miami, and you know that they did. So, I mean, I don't know what else you want me to say.
Listen, I can tell you, Coach, when I talked to Jason on the phone last night, we even had part of this conversation.
You're saying it right now, Coach Roybal. You're saying it right now.
And Jason's told me last night that he thinks Notre Dame deserves to be in no matter what because of Jeremiah Love and that NFL level defense. And I disagreed a little bit.
I've been saying this shit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think, Notre Dame just had some
with him on the show right here before too. He knows that.
You lost to Miami, and Miami's a pretty good ball club. You lost to A&M, who's a decent ball club. And I don't know, you get this conference championship weekend off, which is probably a good thing. And again, that's where I'm going to be intrigued to see how the committee looks at this whole deal, because it does appear as though teams are now getting punished for playing in their conference title game. It's almost better to end up in third place with only 2 losses, because then you're sitting at home. And if the committee proves that there is some bias sentiment in that department, I think it's going to be bad for college football. But if they leave out Alabama, it's going to be bad for them.
It's bad for it. Look, it's the point I'm trying to make in all of this. It's not even about what I think or any of that. what we've been saying is be consistent in how you decide these things.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah, right.
Be consistent. If you want to say, if I've told you, my opinion is head to head has to matter on the fucking field, and it should, in my opinion. But that I would also have said earlier that if the committee just comes out and says, you know what? Yes, they played in a head-to-head game. That was in week 1, and we think that Notre Dame has gotten better and Miami's gotten worse, and that's why we're not willing to put them in above Notre Dame. Fine. I don't even have to agree with you, but at least you're not bullshitting me. And you're not trying to double talk everything. And that's my problem with India. I don't give a shit who gets in. I mean, just like anybody else, I want my team in. I feel like my team deserves to be in. I can make the argument. I can argue for you and argue against you because I watch enough college football that I can make my decisions based on that and build an opinion. I'm able to do all of that.
It's funny. Coach just said,
it.
Coach said he's glad you're not on the committee, but
I know.
Coach knows half of those mother truckers on the committee don't watch a lick of football. So
I'm aware. That's the argument that we're having right now, Cody, is that I saw that he said that. It's not about me being on the committee. I'm saying that the committee is not in any way, shape, or form consistent, and they bullshit and double talk their way around everything. So why would anybody be happy with the result of this thing?
But what I'm saying is, Coach doesn't want somebody he knows that knows football, that's been covering football for almost 30 years. He doesn't want you on the committee, but he's okay with the people on the committee who don't know the difference between the SEC and the Big 12. Like, that's just, I don't know, man. I don't get it. Make that one make sense for me, Coach.
I think shit, and I get it. Coach Roybal enjoys the fact that Notre Dame is going to get in, and he'll sit there and tell you that maybe they don't deserve to be in there, but they're going to be in there, and that's fine. I'm not even saying that they don't deserve to be. I think that Notre Dame is one of the best teams in the country. I believe that. I do believe that. Cody, they're not that different from a year ago, and they played for the national title. In fact, they might be better than they were a year ago. Maybe not quite as good defensively, but they're better offensively by a long shot.
Yeah, maybe.
I believe that they could do that. I'm not saying they're not worthy of the playoff. I'm telling you, if it comes down to between them and Miami, what I would do on a head-to-head, I would have to go with Miami. That doesn't mean that I think Miami's even better. What my problem is that I think that the committee in and of itself, the process is flawed. I'm not saying to add fucking 15,000 teams or anything like that, what everybody wants to do.
Yeah.
If anything, get rid of the G5 and you have less of these arguments, and they don't belong.
Right.
I know a lot of people don't agree with that either, but fix the process. I don't care about adding teams. Fix the process.
So I do, again, I go back. I do have a little bit of an issue with it because, I mean, Oklahoma State, we're terrible, man. We haven't won a conference game in 2 years. But I'm sorry, if we had Stanford, Syracuse, Boston College, NC State, Boise State on our schedule, we probably have more than one victory. That's my only point. Notre Dame used to have a schedule loaded with top 25 teams every single week. It's just not happening anymore. And it's not always necessarily on Notre Dame, right? Because a lot of these schedules are made years in advance. And I completely get that.
These schedules, it's easy to talk shit about that, but these schedules are made way out in advance. You don't know what they're going to be.
No, I understand that, but I don't understand how any Notre Dame fan can look at this schedule and say, hell yeah, we deserve to be in. What are we talking? To me, it's the same conversation as you can't let two G5 teams in. You cannot let two G5 teams in. I don't think that a team that plays a cupcake schedule should be getting a bunch of benefits. I don't
know how cupcakey. I don't think it's as cupcakey as
everybody. And you said they beat the crap out of USC. They only won by 10.
I think they ran.
It's not a whooping.
They whooped their ass. They dominated the second half of the game on that. They kind of leaned on them, is what I'm saying. I think and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think USC got like a garbage time touchdown too. They were not in that game late. In any event, they won that's
So that's their
best.
hold on. That's their best win. Yeah.
Or Pitt or what is? I don't know.
I would assume USC would be the
I
best
would think
win.
USC probably, right?
Just because USC being a 9-3 team again, but again, would USC go 9-3 in the Big 12 or the SEC?
We're looking at Arkansas at the end of the year as to what they are, but they went to Arkansas and put a 50 burger on their asses. Now, at the start of the season, you weren't going to say, well, that's an SEC game. They played an SEC team.
Yeah.
I get it that Arkansas sucks, but you can't say that that's not. I mean, they went and did what they were supposed to do on the road. I mean, I'm just not going to tell you that it's that cream puppy of a schedule. I know everybody wants to do that,
but then you can play that game of Oklahoma State beat Arkansas last year, and we're one of the worst teams in all of college football. So beating Arkansas, I mean, it doesn't mean much. I think James Madison would destroy Arkansas. That doesn't mean they deserve to be in the playoff.
No, you think James Madison would? I don't know that they would. And Arkansas was putting up points on the best team. They just didn't stop anybody. They were right in it with every good team that they played all the way throughout the second half of the season when Petrino took over. All I'm saying is it's still an SEC program.
Listen, man, my team is so bad. Arkansas is the only SEC team I can take shots at, so let me get them in where I can, please.
I'm fine. I'm just saying, the point I'm trying to make is everybody's acting like the schedule is that fucking bad, and I don't know that it is. In relation to
okay, hold on.
Talking about the Big Ten.
We're going to talk about to me.
Some of these shitty ass big teams. Okay, no. Well, Oregon. Look at Oregon's schedule. Who do they got that looks good to you?
But that's the same thing I just said about USC. Their best win is against USC, who has 6 guaranteed built-in wins that they would have got with their third-string quarterback. Correct. That is my point. If their best win is against a team that has 6, they played 6 teams as good as Oklahoma State.
Oregon, there's talk about Oregon being one of the top 4 teams as along with Ohio State and Indiana.
Yeah, but if
we're going to do all this stuff and talk like this, then you kind of have to spread it across the board. All I'm saying is they're not the only, even if it is kind of cupcakey, it's damn sure not the only cupcakey fucking schedule in that top 12.
No, not at all. Not at all.
By any stretch of the imagination. And I don't give a fuck about conference championship game versus no conference. These conference championships are about to go away. I promise you that. These games are about to go away. And they probably should. Thank you for the super chat, Crow. Appreciate
it. It does almost appear as though you're correct, because again, it looks like BYU's probably going to get penalized for being in that game. There's a good chance that Alabama or Georgia get somewhat penalized for appearing in that game. And you are setting a precedence now that you don't want to be in your conference title game. You would rather finish the regular season in 3rd place. That is the best position to be, is the 3rd place team going into the conference title game. And yeah, You're right. If they keep setting the precedence that this is how it's going to be, then there's literally no point in having conference title games. And you're right. They're just going to do away with them because it's starting to become visible that if you play in your conference title game, it has a better chance of hurting you than helping you.
Right. Well, and I mean, and like I said, yeah, Arkansas is definitely the best 2-10 team you ever see. Point taken, Hammer. Point taken.
Are we the best 1-9 team ever then?
No. Or maybe. I don't know. Gruden's playoff fix. Fuck Gruden in that. That's all. That's just, let's add every fucking team in the country to this playoff and not make the regular season. The thing about those fixes for your playoff stuff is that you make the regular season less. It matters less. With every addition, you make the regular season matter less. Now, I would tell you that the 12-team playoff has kind of done the opposite because there's more teams that more games matter to get to this 12 spot, right?
Yeah.
The more that you go up, the less that, and then guess what? Now we're going to be bitching about 16 or
Yes.
24. The teams that are 25th or 17th in the rankings, we're just going to be bitching about that then.
So
And
I'll admit,
we're getting away from, are we trying to find out who the best team is, or are we just, everybody gets to play, no team left behind? What are we doing?
You know, what's funny is like, I was down with the 12-team playoff because I thought it was going to benefit the Big 12, right? Like, I was like, oh, with 12-team playoff, we're always going to probably get two teams in. This is great. Even if that doesn't happen this year, I am still of the mind that there's not 12 teams that can really win it, right? There's probably like 7. There's probably 7 teams that are legitimately good enough to win the whole thing. So as much as I like the idea of the 12-team playoff, and I think it could be beneficial for the Big 12 in the future, including Oklahoma State, if we ever get our shit back together again, I don't think that 12-team is right. I think 16 is even worse. I believe we need to go backwards a little bit to an 8-team format, because I want to see North Texas play in this thing. Yeah, but I don't have any disillusionment. North Texas isn't going to win the whole daggone thing, likely. There's just they don't have the horses and the depth. No. Right? I think they have enough speed and athleticism to, catch some teams off guard for a few quarters. But
that's not what we're trying to fucking find out.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
It's like
12's too much. 12's too much.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I feel like you're at a point now that let's just let anybody in. Listen, I understand that access will keep a lot of people happy. That's cool and all. I had this argument with Coach Dent a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about, and it was a different argument, but the argument was about Arbuckle, and I was like, no, an OC at Oklahoma better come ready. He shouldn't be learning on the job. And he was like, OU hasn't won in 25 years, and Natty. Neither Ole Miss and Mississippi State have never fucking won one. The point being is, there's different levels to this shit, and sometimes you're not on the level, and that's okay. But stop acting like we need to put everybody in because everybody has an actual chance, because we know better. We know better. Yeah. And so G5, that's where I'm at. I don't want the G5 in it, and it's not. I'm not trying to come from an elitist area, but the truth be told, they can't. They're not. If you can hang around for half of the game, or if you win one game of one playoff game in 10 years, then good for you.
That's it.
Never gonna fucking win a natty.
No, but dude, see, I love it. I think I like the idea of one G5 squeezing in every year, because, like you just nailed it, there's going to be that 1 out of 10 that is going to be a clippable moment played for 5 decades. Not to rub salt in any old school wounds, but that Boise State reverse Statue of Liberty thing, that is still played on TVs across the country on a monthly basis, darn near, right? And so, like, say a North Texas or a Tulane or a James Madison, if they were to just happen to upset Ole Miss, like, that's going to be a story told for 50 years. That's good for college football. That's
and I can see that.
I think one
we just talked about, every year lost their fucking coaching staff, their offensive coaching staff. There's something other than just the fact that they're playing Ole Miss. They're playing a depleted Ole Miss in some way, shape, or form, right?
I know, but that's what drives the bus for those schools.
I get it, man. I get it.
And I think so if Tulane or North Texas or JMU, if they go 12-1, like, they deserve the money that they get for making the playoff. I think that.
Stephen G, I think we should do this. Cody, when the final bracket is released, come back and give your advancements. We can do that on Tuesday night.
Oh, yeah.
We can do that on Tuesday night with Coach.
So, and I have a secret to tell everybody. It won't be Notre Dame. I just did that.
You believe they could win it all? They could win it. Who gives a shit what they think? We know better than that.
I don't think so. I don't think that. Hold on.
Arranged enough to actually believe that.
I would like to assume that they're not under that level of illusion. But It is possible.
Some are probably, but
Because I did see a handful of North Texas fans legitimately trying to say that Eric Morris taking the Oklahoma State job is a lateral move. I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, we suck something fierce and we're down. But anybody that's saying that, North Texas to Oklahoma State's a lateral move is somebody who's been watching college football for, 2 years.
10 minutes.
So some of those fans do exist. So yeah, there probably are some G5 fans that genuinely believe they can win it. There's no chance. Maybe one game, right? If it's a one-off game, sure. But you have to win multiple playoff games, and there's
Again,
no way.
It's right. It's
like you can get cute and you can do some Dana Holgerson double reverse Statue of Liberties all flipping game and maybe catch somebody by surprise and put up 55 points.
okay.
But you're not going to be able to do that for consecutive weeks when you're
not taking down a real contender for the Natty.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Because eventually you're going to have to go up against the team where their smallest third string lineman would be your biggest starter. It's going, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Shouldn't conference championship games be determined based off CFP rankings and not some tiebreakers?
Hell no.
It's better than what the ACC's doing. I'll tell you that much, Hammer.
I'd say hell no, simply because there's a lot of politics in the rankings.
But okay, I agree with that. But a 7-5, I think that you have got to figure out a way to not have what is going on in the ACC happen again.
Oh, I agree, but that's a them problem. Remember when the Big 12
agree with that. Yes, that's a perfect example too. By the way, when they stopped having a fucking conference title game,
yes,
just because they didn't want to bump it back up to 12 teams.
Well, no. Even when we did have the conference title game and we had that number 3 versus number 4 Baylor versus TCU game, and then after the game, our Big 12 commissioner comes out and says they're both winners. The committee was like, okay, bet, watch this. Now neither of you are going to get in.
No, they didn't play it again. They played in the regular season. They didn't play a conference championship game, and neither one of them got in.
It caused the Big 12 to change some shit because that was clearly massive.
You guys missed out on a national championship too by not playing a conference championship game the year that you could have. I mean, you could have went to the Natty game in the BCS time. What was 2011?
Yeah. No. My point is, we went through this, and the Big 12 at least learned from its mistake and started putting some things in order to correct what had happened. But yeah, the ACC needs to do the same thing because they're essentially in the same position. And what happens is you're going to screw 2 teams instead of just one by doing it the way that they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, there needs to be another metric, especially for the ACC, because I think it's very visible at this point in time that if you're talking about future security, stability, viability between the Big 12 and the ACC, it's not even close. And then the ACC does stuff like this that makes it even significantly worse for them.
Dude, is that commissioner, is he eating paint chips for breakfast every day? I don't understand what's going on over there.
I mean, that's probably, paint chips on caviar. That might.
Wild to me. I just don't understand it. But the point is, look, there's better ways they could do it. I just be more consistent as far as I don't give a fuck who you put in. Just be consistent with how you decide it. And because when it changes every year, and I understand you can change the metric that you want this metric to mean more and this one not to mean as much and this, fine. But you're getting these weird biases from these, and every year it's a different group of numbnuts that are in there making these choices too. I'm not saying use all computers. I'd like to add a computer element.
Me too.
The schedule element. And I don't necessarily think that ADs are the right people for this job either. Because I think like the AP poll, they don't watch a lot of football. I don't think
it's just you don't have time. Well, let's call a spade. We cover this for a living. This is what we do. So every Saturday, we have to watch like a complete slate of games for our paychecks. to be beneficial. Yeah.
Mhm.
But we cannot watch every game. It is not physically possible. Like you may be able to watch a couple quarters of, Oklahoma Alabama game, a couple quarters of the Holy War, a couple quarters of Clemson versus Miami. Like you can watch a whole game where you can flip back and forth between multiple games, but there's not enough hours in a day for you to be up to speed on every single team and game that is happening. So yes, we do need to add a little bit more of a computer element, but we need to keep the human element because, as you mentioned earlier, I think the eye test does still matter. Yeah, I do.
Sure.
But we know the eye test is being predicated upon not being able to watch enough games with people who don't know anything about
Not
football.
everybody's like some. Dude, I watch Oklahoma live, and I watch every other football game I can fit into my brain the rest of the week until the next one, and I'll catch up on all of it. But not everybody's like that.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. I'll have a game on the big TV, right?
Mhm.
I'll have a game on the small TV and a game up on my laptop. So and then even clips on my phone. So I might be watching 4 games at once, but am I paying attention to every play on all 4 games? No, you can't. It's
No,
physically impossible.
but even I don't even think that the committee members do that.
Oh, I know. Right. That's my point.
So
Yeah.
the point I'm saying is you could find better people than a bunch of ADs that stand to gain or lose based on what their decision is too. That it doesn't even look good.
Yeah,
You
dude,
know what I mean? Hunter Yurachek is a clown, and you know what? But Mac Rhodes looked like a dickhead too while he was doing it. It was just bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude,
Good
I
Lord.
went to the school for kids who can't read good. I'm dumber than probably 13 boxes of rocks, but I promise you, I could come up with a better top 25 than Connolly's and Flippin' Rice. Like, there is no justification for some of these individuals that have been part of the committee. Like, what are we doing? Like, we're adding. I understand. So, if you want to add Tommy Tuberville, that makes sense. Like, the dude knows football. He coached football. He understands the game.
But
But
he's
then
not
you
in the
have
game anymore, and he can watch the shit. I get it. I'm cool with that.
And
Yeah.
so, like, yeah, I think the committee should be vetted more properly instead of saying we're going to add this AD and this governor and this. Like, what are we doing? Why? Why are we adding these random ass people to be the arbiters of the correct information to determine the best teams in America? It's insanity, dude. It's just like the AP poll voting. It's insanity. Like we have people that admit they voted for the wrong team. I voted for Florida. Oops, I meant to vote for South Florida. Too late now. You can't have that, but you do. So it's just it's a crapshoot. I hate the fact that it is very politically driven and they manipulate rankings to get other teams more top 25 wins. And you know what? They did it with the Big 12 only once, but you notice that right before the BYU Texas Tech game, they bumped BYU to like number 7 in America. It's great. They deserved it. They earned it. But you and I both know that it was only to set up that next week's game between BYU and Texas Tech to help with the viewership. So the fact that we know ESPN does that, right? It's great when we're the beneficiaries of it, but they're only going to give us that benefit like one time a year.
Correct.
So they just, like you mentioned earlier, they need to have set parameters because every year they give us the parameters and then they change them the next year. And then they give us a new set of parameters and they change it
Well,
again.
and they don't even necessarily go by the parameters. I mean,
right.
They're seeing strength of schedule, but are they going by strength of schedule? I don't know.
Well, clearly not.
Again, that's what I'm saying. They're not always going. It only works if you stay consistent. And again, if Hunter Yurachek does it, if you just, I mean, I don't want to keep on going back to Notre Dame and Miami because it's not about Notre Dame and Miami. I'm saying that argument right there, instead of saying, well, we haven't compared them together because they're not in the same block. Shut the fuck up. You know, they've had the same, they have a similar schedule strength and they've played each other and they have the same record. You are damn sure comparing them. Stop saying that. Just tell the truth. You think that Notre Dame is now better than they were in week 1, and whether anybody agrees with that or not doesn't even matter.
At least it's a somewhat reasonable justification.
You like Notre Dame better today. End of story.
Is that the massive assgasm that went all Riri McGee mode and was going 6'7"? Is that Hunter dude?
Yes, dude. What is 6'7"? What the fuck is that? I don't.
It's I'm not gonna get into it because I probably
It's
have
just
some.
stupid, right? Stupid.
Well, originally, yeah, I thought it was just stupid. It was a kid thing. It was funny, ha ha ha. But if you do some digging into it, where it came from, the rapper that originally did it, like, is it open?
Okay,
Yeah,
never mind.
yeah,
Never
yeah,
mind.
yeah. Like, if you look into the rapper, he tells you what 6'7" means, and it does have some.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool. I
yeah,
don't. I
yeah,
don't care. I don't even know why I asked.
yeah, yeah.
Hammer. Each conference should rank their teams and give that to the CFP to pick from. I think that that's why I like the idea of doing play-ins instead of like a conference championship game, right? So like you could add. I mean, I think your conference champion or maybe your top two in the conference are automatics or whatever. But then you could play instead of on championship weekend playing one game, you could do 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3, and especially in close conferences, like generally speaking, the Big 12 is gonna eat itself alive. You have a bunch of teams beating up on each other. Like last year, I don't think that it was. You don't really know who the best team in the conference was. I think at that time ASU was, but
Well, I actually like this a lot.
deserve a chance to see. Right? It was tiebreakers kept them out of that championship game. Right?
I like that coming a lot, actually, because if that were applicable this season, Miami would be in the ACC title game instead of Duke, and B, as you just mentioned it, there's a direct correlation to the Big 12. If this was applicable last year, I'd I would bet a testy that we would have put BYU in the Big 12 title game against Arizona State instead of Iowa State, because at that time last year, BYU was clearly the second best team in the conference, but because of the tiebreaker stuff, Iowa State got to play in the Big 12 title game and they got absolutely boat raced by Arizona State.
But
BYU was the
they
second best
caught
team
fire
in
at
the
the right
conference.
time too, right? I mean, Scatterboo was a different animal, but they caught fire at a certain time,
Yeah.
and it kind of carried them through. But that being said, again, that's why I really wanted to see the ACC and the Big 12 accept that 4-4-2-2 if they were going to go to the 16, and that way you could do some stuff like that and go ahead and award your conference champion whatever, and not have a game. And let's play in these other. It gives more teams the opportunity to win their way into that damn thing. And it becomes less about a committee deciding it. You're deciding it at the conference level. That's the point I'm trying to make. You're deciding it at the conference level if you have a more of a play-in type. It doesn't matter what fucking Joe Blow from Arkansas thinks. It we our conference, we decided it. These are our top 4
Yeah.
teams. These are our top 2 teams after we played it off. That's who's coming in.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, this year the Big 12 it sorted itself out. I do think the top two teams in the conference are playing for the Big 12 title, but last year that was not the case. In the ACC this year, not the case. So yeah, I actually I like that comment to add into the season voting on the conference as a component. That's
Mhm.
pretty decent. That's pretty decent.
Well, anything that I mean, listen, I'd love to just see it be a little better. You know what I mean? And Hammer, I think is a great comment. Great comment, great idea. I mean, any way you come about it, if you can play your way in and it's less about the eye test and more about what you do on the field, I'm happy for that.
Yeah.
And especially, and I get it, like even what I was saying earlier about, I mean, on the field should matter no matter what, but I definitely think that if at the end, I can see why people would say, I think right now Notre Dame would beat Miami. That doesn't mean that I'm right. I think,
Probably.
and
Probably.
but they still you already have definitive proof. So if we need to break a tie somewhere, that's where you break it. To me, this way you wouldn't have to worry about that shit because in this case you would find a way to play it off or you've got whatever you got to do. But I don't know. I'm all for finding ways to take it out of the hands of biased people and you're always going to have biased people as long as you have a committee that's making these choices all the way around.
And one thing I will never be able to fully conceptualize is why the committee ever thought it would be a good idea to have a bunch of politicians and governors and stuff be the determining factor on who the best football teams in the country are. It's insanity. It's absolute insanity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the only real way to know is to play, That's all I got. All right, Neilio, my man, appreciate you. Appreciate the super chat. Anybody who's super chatted us, man, I appreciate it. Neilio always hits us there in Cash App. You can do that too. It should be in the description. Our Cash App.
Have Kim and Hank been up in here?
Hankster's in here right now.
All right,
Yeah,
all right.
or he was. I haven't seen Kim in a while. I think Kim doesn't like me very much because I don't like to hear about. He bitches about NIL too much, and I bitch at him back.
Apparently, I'm getting old because I can't hardly read the comments. So I don't.
You're getting old?
Yeah, I must be.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I can't read the comments are too small. The text is too small. So I don't know. I don't really know what people are saying generally.
If Notre Dame gets in the playoffs, every team on Notre Dame's schedule next year needs to cancel their Notre Dame game because if you beat corrections, we know that you hate Notre Dame. I get it. I'm going to tell you this. If they're good enough to be in, and there's definitely a money part to it, but they would beat most teams. I'm going to tell you, I know a lot of people want Oklahoma, Notre Dame in the first round of the playoff. The people that don't, I think it's because you know that they might beat our ass.
Well, I say this before we do skedaddle on off
better
here.
Play better offense if you play Notre Dame. I know that shit.
That Notre Dame better get in this season because I don't think they have. I mean, yeah, they don't have much of a chance next season unless they go 11-1. Their schedule next year is worse than their schedule this year.
Who's that? Notre Dame's?
Yeah. Like next year, they're not going to have any justification. So they'll play Miami, SMU, and USC.
Are they playing USC?
Yeah.
Did they add? They added a game to it, Coach. Did they add that game? I didn't know they did.
I'm on FBS schedules, and it says last game of the season versus USC, TBD.
Yeah, it's TBD though. But this was the last year of that schedule.
Oh, I'm just looking at FB schedules. I don't know.
I don't think it's right. As far as I know, they're not playing.
Well, do you know what? Then they damn sure better be playing USC. Otherwise,
that's a Lincoln thing. That's not a Notre Dame thing.
No, I'm not throwing shade at either of them. I'm just saying that next year they might play.
I think that Lincoln and Rule
they're going to play two ranked teams. Next year they have maybe two ranked opponents all flipping season.
Okay.
That's going to be hard.
You never know these days. You never know how it's going to turn out from one year to the next, though.
You're right. Boston College could end up being a top 25 team. That is, yeah, I get what you're saying.
You never know. And I don't know who they're playing in the ACC or whatever, too. But that I think that part of it, they have to play so many ACC games, and the way that it shakes out sometimes hasn't worked out in their favor for it to look good towards them either. Yeah. And they don't choose which teams they play every year.
Well, you never know, dude. Right? Maybe next year by the time they play Syracuse, Syracuse will be pretty good, and they'll get a halftime show from Tootsie in uniform.
If we play Notre Dame in the playoffs, we win, says Crow. Yeah.
OU play Notre Dame,
I'm not so sure about that.
I agree with him.
I think that they could. I think that if you better put up some points. You better put up some points because they're not a one-dimensional offense anymore. That's not Notre Dame. They have a good defense and they're not one-dimensional. They're going to put up something on you. So you better they've got to score, man. They've got to score.
I would pick OU in that game, but I also thought we were going to have a really good season. So take that for what it's worth.
You would pick Oklahoma in that game?
Yeah.
Listen, I would hope, but I'm just telling you, that's the one that I'm more because I think I would rather play A&M. I don't really think that A&M is
Yeah, no, I agree. The two teams that seem
I
the
think
most
no matter what, you're going to have to fucking play them all if you're going to win the Natty. You're going to have to play the best ones at some point, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
But I'm saying I don't think it's as cut and dried as a lot of people do. But right now I'm pessimistic about Oklahoma right now. I don't like the offense. I think it sucks.
it's not great. It's not great. But yeah, I mean, you guys have a time as it pertains to which teams have the most susceptibility to give up a dub. It would probably be A&M or Ole Miss in the current situation.
Ole Miss, yeah.
A&M looked
I like the
awful.
way that Oklahoma matches up with Tech. A lot of people don't like that. I think that Oklahoma beats the brakes off of Tech. I'm not so sure that BYU has this thing where they always beat people. You know what I mean?
BYU's like the K-State Colin Klein squads.
They fucking piss you right off. Yes, exactly. They did it to Texas. They did it to Oklahoma a number of times. It happens.
Yep.
It's
like
just
you know what they're gonna do. It's like
BYU
it's the same thing as when Tim Tebow was at Florida. He could yell out the play that they were gonna run, and you still probably weren't gonna stop it.
Mhm. Hey, let's talk about this. Let me get off this conversation. We've been talking about it for the whole time. All right. Talk to us about Eric Morris. What I mean, look, I'm got to tell you that I remember all the times that all you Okie lighters were just so worried about getting rid of Mike Gundy because we're not ever going to get a better coach than him. I think you went way better than him. Way better than him at this point.
I was never one of those that thought we would never ever do better than Mike Gundy. Okay, for put that out there. I did think that Mike Gundy completely changed everything over the offseason and hired all those SEC coaches and brought out all of those SEC and Big Ten transfers.
Don't take it for Mike Gundy. Let's talk Eric Morris. Come on.
I did believe that it was going to amount to something, but it didn't. And you're right. Now we get Eric Morris. Dude, I'm insanely excited, right? I think this is the perfect fit because Oklahoma State has always been synonymous with top-tier offenses. If you look at the recruiting, the 4 stars that we got were always running backs. They were always wide receivers. Occasionally, right, we'd have a quarterback pop up. Eric Morris is the best evaluation talent quarterback dude guru in the country. So that was Mike Gundy's biggest deficiency, right? Mike Gundy never picked the right quarterback. 99% of the time, the better quarterback on Oklahoma State's roster was always the backup. Brandon Weeden was a backup. Mason Rudolph was a backup. Spencer Sanders was a backup. Taylor Cornelius was a backup. All of our best quarterbacks were not the starters. Thankfully, if we can continue to get the wide receiver and running back talent we've always been able to get factored in with Eric Morris's ability to find the best quarterbacks in America, our offense is going to be back to what made Mike Gundy so successful for 18 years. We might give up 40 points, but that's because we were going to score 50, right? I think the future of Oklahoma State's going to be somewhat reminiscent of the Oklahoma State teams that we watched for years. And that fits into the recruiting mold. He's from that Texas regional area. He has familiarity with the Big 12. Joe McGuire has things cooking, so we don't necessarily have to worry about Tech stealing Eric Morris away from us, at least in the near future. And the fact that
it felt like let me address that real quick. I don't feel like you guys hired a guy that's just going to up and leave.
No, right.
His comments about they asked him back at North Texas about what made him choose him over because apparently he was the number 1 target at Arkansas, right?
Correct. Yeah.
What makes you choose them over an SEC school? Which is a great question. His thoughts: they kicked our ass all the time. He knows what the program can be. I think that the backing that you get at Oklahoma State, and I would tell you that I still think y'all are bass backwards in a lot of things. But what I know and what I told you a long time ago was the fan base deserves a lot more because of how they will get behind you. They deserve better than what Mike Gundy was giving you. And that's the main point that we were, and Coach and I talked about it a lot too. We were always bashing on him because he's a fucking dick. But the point would be, I just felt like he was mailing it in for a long time. This is a guy, it doesn't feel like I feel like if he was to get it going there, if he's going to leave, it's not going to be to go to Tech. it's going to be to go to an SEC power or something like that, right?
Eric Morris?
I don't feel like that's going to be what happens. I don't.
See, I viewed it similar to Colin Klein. The obstacle of hiring Colin Klein.
That doesn't always work out, and this may not work out either with Colin Klein. Just so we understand,
it might not.
It may not.
You're right. It might not. But yeah, dude, I'm very, very, very happy with Eric Morris. I would give it like an A. And then whenever you factor in that he's bringing Raj Murdy with him, that almost by itself launches it into an A+. And it's funny, you and I had this conversation. I don't think it was on air, but like before the season started, and you were telling me how Brett Venables wanted them to go with the GM route so Brett Venables can focus on coaching the flipping football team instead of the recruiting and the NIL and the meetings. He didn't want to do all of that. He wanted the GM to be the facilitator of all that.
Facts.
We have that now. We didn't have that last year. We attempted it to some degree with Kenyatta Wright, but I love Kenyatta Wright. He's a phenomenal ambassador for Oklahoma State. But you and I both, if somebody handed me or you $13 million and said, go spend this efficiently, I've never had $13 million. I'm probably not going to spend it as efficiently as it should be. I equate that to
there's better people, and even if you could, there's probably somebody who's better at that already.
Yeah, I mean, you're somebody who got a financial degree and graduated college at like 19 probably knows more than your average football player.
Yeah, or a general manager who does this.
That's what I'm saying.
Or,
yeah,
assistant general manager who's been learning this.
And he's a GM that is a football dude. He was a student coach in high school. He was doing film cut-ups, designing plays in high school, worked for Dana Holgorsen for a year.
Whatever the case may be, of course.
He was assistant GM when TCU played for a national title. He is a football dude, right? So that's the difference, I think, between Raj Murthy and some of these other GMs across the country, is he's a GM that can look at the film and say, hey, bro, I'm paying you $25,000 a month, but you were supposed to squeeze here. You missed a tackle here. You stopped running here. You were in the wrong 3 technique here. He actually can look at the film and make justifications on why players are getting what they're getting. And I think that's going to be absolutely massive for Oklahoma State, because you're hearing that a lot of donors are stepping up. And clearly, I think it's visible they are. You don't get Eric Morris, most of the staff, most of the roster, if you haven't stepped up in a major way financially, at least behind the scenes. So we do have everything in place to be successful, at least somewhat.
I feel like it was so important to do it early when they did it too. I felt like, do it now. Don't do the fucking farewell tour thing or put off making that choice until the end of the year.
Yeah.
Unlike Penn State, you guys did it early and got one of the hires quick, right?
That's what I was going to say, man. Like, people can say whatever they want about, people can talk crap, but at the end of the day, we got our guy before Florida, before LSU, before Arkansas, before everybody not named Virginia Tech.
Is that right?
Yeah. Virginia Tech hired Franklin, and then we got Morris like a week later.
Oh, that's right. He was, and we kind of saw that coming too, right? But then the dominoes all fell once.
Well, we saw James Franklin not coming to Stillwater because Mike Gundy said that he would tell James Franklin not to take the O State job. We did learn that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And you got rolled for talking about that, didn't you? Didn't they drag you around on that one? Yeah, like always.
It's been, honestly, the last thing I got dragged about, and I'm glad you mentioned this, was the KD Batman Jones thing. That's the last time I got chastised by my own peoples.
Oh, why? Because he had flipped?
Yeah. So I made a comment on X about how I didn't appreciate the way that KD Batman Jones talked all this glowing stuff about Oklahoma State and home state, and it's not about necessarily even Mike Gundy. And then a few days later, you flip to KU. I talked about how Taj Overton waited a month, right? Trey McLaughlin, Carter Langander, for everybody that decommitted. They waited weeks and weeks and weeks before, they were looking at other places or committing other places, except for KD Batman Jones. He's the best player in the state of Oklahoma, in my opinion, clearly the best running back in the state. We absolutely needed him, but all I said was I thought it was a bullshit weak sauce move to say all this stuff about staying home and Oklahoma State's the best and they're the best recruiters and they're the best NIL and this and that and the other. And then 72 hours later, flip to KU. I thought it was a weak sauce move. That's what I said. And I got massacred by a lot of even my own people were
OSU fans.
Yes. No, not even OSU fans. People in my own like private groups that I talk to on an almost daily basis. Even some of those mother truckers were jumping on the F Cody bandwagon. And it's crazy. It's like you got a bunch of burner accounts that are talking a bunch of crap. At least I don't speak from a degree of anonymity. Whenever I do say something, I have
I love those people. It's always the loud ones are always the ones that don't have a name or face.
It's crazy to me, man. And that's what I'm saying. Like I put myself out there because I do research the game and watch enough football to be at least half-ass knowledgeable.
Give your opinion. That's your job.
And again, like now that Katie Batman Jones,
I'm going through it too, man, because of the material talk.
Well, now that he's a Cowboy, people are like, I bet you feel stupid. Now, no, I still think that it was kind of a weak sauce move for him to flip in a matter of 3-4 days. Like he didn't even give it time to breathe.
I don't think they have to agree with your opinion. It's okay to have it though. And the thing is, like, because for the most part, I think you're going to be on the side of the athlete against the school almost every time. But
yeah.
But if you feel a certain kind of way about a certain kind of thing, you should go ahead and say that. There's nothing wrong with that.
And yeah, but I think that's my problem is I speak my mind too often, and apparently it's a problem.
Sometimes it happens. You know what I mean? I do it a lot too. I catch a lot of hell. Generally, it's not always in the live stream chats, but in the comments after the fact, people hate that I've been as honest as I've been about John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle and that god awful production that's been lately. I don't give a fuck though. I don't give a fuck. I just don't.
So, yeah, it is crazy being in this job and people still occasionally expect you to not be real. And you know what? Well, I just passed 1 million views a few days ago. So I think I'm just going to keep rocking.
Hey, I just saw that. I just noticed that you sent that last night. Congratulations, 1 million views.
Yeah, I was excited. And you know what, dude? It's like, it's funny because I was waiting on it, and then I forgot about it. And then I looked last night, and I was like, oh, dang it.
Oh, where the hell is that?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's an exciting time in Cowboy country because we got our guy. He's bringing his staff, bringing his GM, probably bringing his quarterback, running back, wide receiver combo with him. Cowboy basketball's 8-0 for the first time since 2006. Cowgirl basketball is 9-1, top 25. Cowboy wrestling, right, is in contention to at least give Penn State a little bit of a run for their money. It's a good time to be a Cowboy. It's a good time to be a Sooner. But don't forget, buddy, we have a back-to-back doubleheader of Bedlam at the Paycom Center here in about a week and a half. I can't flip and wait for it because I think you guys beat both our men's and women's teams last year. So we have some redemption. And we're actually good enough to do it. So it's exciting. Oh, yeah, and cross country just won us national championship number 55. It's good times. Oh, and my friends Falcons.
Skippy.
My friends Falcons are playing in the 3rd round of the NAI playoffs tomorrow. And me and Logan, we're going to try to make it out there. We're not going to be able to, but hopefully Friends gets the dub. And then they have one more game before they're playing for a national championship.
Shout out to Logan, man. Shout out to Logan.
That's right.
Hey, but for the 1 million views.
I thought you were about to play that Mike Gundy fans are poor thing, so I appreciate that.
No, I mean, I could have, but I just
for your 1millionth view, look at this. Yeah.
No, or I could have went this route.
I'd rather hear Mike Gundy call me poor again.
Right. I know, I get it. Oh man, congratulations on that. It was one of the milestones that we hit this year as well on the channel. It's a great. I mean, hell, I didn't think we were going to get 10 people to watch this, so I'm grateful. every day that we get all you guys come. And I appreciate everybody that comes in and watches us. I don't know why you do, but I appreciate that you guys do. And so,
it's funny. There's something.
Right now, my opinions are going to be what they're going to come out there right on the. I'm going to wear them on my sleeve and fucking argue about them all day. So
I'll tell you the damnedest thing that I never foresaw in this occupation is there's a decent number of people that just hate watch you. Not you, but in general, right?
Oh, there's a decent number that does that for me for sure.
I didn't realize that, but over some time, like you see the same people talking shit in the live comments on a repeatedly consistent basis.
You know what I've noticed is like when somebody buys a membership, they'll like donate membership or something like that. I don't know who the fuck this person is. I never see them, but they get a membership all of a sudden. And then a little while later, not during a live stream, but they'll say some fucked up shit to you or whatever on a comment.
Yeah.
And there's definitely hate watchers in there. Yeah. Shout out to Killer Breeze. You can go fuck yourself too.
I've got a OU fan that hate watches me. I don't know if it's a him or a her.
Outlaw college football.
Oh, there's Andrea Slick or something like that. But yeah, dude, it's fun. I have a good time with it. I feel like I'm incredibly blessed, and I greatly appreciate whenever you invite me on to this show, because I will be honest, I can be more free myself, open on your show. I have to be a little bit more prim and proper on mine, but yeah, I enjoy letting my hair back and letting the curse word occasionally fly and having some fun. So I appreciate you,
man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, my man. We've been going for a little over 2 hours now, or right at 2 hours. So
nice.
Go ahead and hit the sucker today. But hey, I appreciate you coming in, and it's always good talking to you. I think, and folks, I think we are working towards kind of maybe doing a weekly show or something coming up next year, maybe. It's something we've been kind of talking about. You guys get over to Locked On and like, push at him and make sure that he wants to do it. So
no, I want to do it. It's just I've got some stuff in Colorado, and there could be an opportunity for me to end up moving back home here in the next year or so. So it definitely makes it more of a realistic opportunity.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, I think that it's good for everybody if we do a show every once in a while at least. So
well, and it's fun because
be good for us, for sure.
You get some of that old school with you and I.
Anyway.
Me and you are still old school enough that we can go back and forth. We can talk a bunch of crap. We can call each other every other name in the book, and then the very next hour, we're right back to talking football. And you don't see a lot of that anymore. A lot of times when you have a difference of opinion, it causes a bunch of animosity. But we don't have that, right? If people had the fly on the wall for some of our phone conversations, it would be a wild ride. Neither of us would probably be behind a microphone sometimes, but
no, I think that would be bad.
But that's the beauty of it, bro. It's like we can go back and forth.
We can get close though. We can get close to that.
That's right. not Joe Rogan close, but yeah.
Yeah. No,
getting close.
Hey man, it's man. There's a lot of great stuff coming up over the next year, I think, for both of us, and so that's exciting. But guys, I appreciate everybody coming in and spending some time with us. Make sure you check. Hey, once we'll do something on Sunday maybe, or we can do it Tuesday as well. We'll pick with Coach. We'll pick the bracket, so we'll check it out and kind of see how that goes. But man, I appreciate you coming in and anything else, make sure you guys check him out. Locked On Oklahoma State. He's at All Day O State on Twitter as well. That's where you find him, and you get him in rare form there as well. So make sure that you guys get over there, give him a hard time, give him a sub. Congratulations on the 1 million. Appreciate you, my man.
Yeah, go hit me up. Holla at a play when you see him in the street, son.
All right, bro. We'll see you later.
All right, buddy.
Everybody else, see you on the next one.
take your top lip and connect